Vitality is our ability to have spiritual, emotional, mental, and physical bliss. Some call it paradise. We call it a game.
Hey, all my Crimsonites, and welcome to the Crimson Cure channel, where we embrace our femininity, increase our womanly value, and celebrate our brothers. So join me on our feminine journey to learn, heal, and grow. Hey there, my Crimsonites, and welcome to the Crimson Cure channel. I'm your host, femininity coach, and author of the Crimson Cure, and this is my perspective. So today we got a good one for you, and we got a new chart. I did the chart dance in a long time. We got a new chart. Okay. So anyways, what we got for you today is why Black women don't understand their sexual market value. We find that a lot of Black women do not have a good understanding of what their sexual market value actually is. A lot of Black women did not even know about the term or the concept before the Black Manosphere, actually, before the men started actually coming together and talking about a woman's value set on the sexual marketplace or on the dating marketplace. Okay. So you'll hear terms sexual market value, or you will hear dating market value, okay? Or in case you've been listening to me, you'll hear marriage market value, all right? But still, a lot of Black women do not understand, or they don't like the actual concept that a woman's sexual value can be affected negatively or positively by things that she has come to take as a normal course of her life. Black women have come to take casual sex, promiscuity, possibly, just gratuitous types of sex and things of that nature as a matter of course. We live in thought culture, we live in hookup culture. And so given the fact that this is the culture that we have right now, thanks to feminism and the sexual liberation movement and women's lib, Black women no longer understand why this should be a negative for her, okay? And she strives to not make this a negative, or to not understand why men see things a certain way, see her sexually a certain way, and determine who he's gonna be to her and who she gonna be to him based on primarily her sexual market value. They don't like terms like, women age like milk and men age like wine. Like, if you take care of yourself, you know what I mean? What that really means is a woman should be taking care of herself. However, her sexual influence, her sexual power actually can diminish because of her age, because she's not youthful anymore. We have more sex appeal and things of that nature the younger that we are, and the more beautiful we are, and the more firm our bodies are, and all of that type of thing. So women have a lot of problems with that. A lot of times, especially the modern Black woman, have a lot of problems with the concept of losing her sexual power, because that is her only power. That has been her only power, and she's used it in nefarious ways. She's used it negatively, actually, most of her life, and she learned how to use it negatively. Now, what this video really is sort of a repackaging, well, not a repackaging, but sort of maybe more a concise, more conversation than the one that we had yesterday in our live stream, okay, about women's sexual market value and the whole self-love thing being a scam. There were some really, really key things stated in that live stream that I want to represent to everyone, and really make sure that we all are wrapping our arms around these concepts, right? So, dun, 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 we got a new chart. Okay, so we are going to start from the top. First of all, it says understanding a Black woman's sexual market value, okay? Sex is the physical manifestation of spiritual love that a woman allows, permits, gives consent, and submits to. She is entered, okay? Now, we all know exactly what sex is, but the problem is that we've become separated from the spiritual love part of the act. We've been so immersed in the transaction, in the thought phase, in the whole phase, and all of these other types of things that women no longer see sex as an expression of love. They see sex as a means to an end, how to get the bag, and all of these other types of things have entered into the sexual arena, and the spirituality and the essence of sex, which is love, has been actually replaced by the transaction. So let me keep going. I'm reading from the left side of the top here, of the left side of that big heart. An important component of a woman's sexual market value is her ability to bring peace, inspiration, motivation, and tranquility. She is his muse. And so many Black women have forgotten that because we've been removed from our femininity. This was one major way culturally that we've been removed from that femininity, because when you unhitch sex from love, that creates a masculine energy rather than a feminine energy, because we no longer understand how to bring peace, inspiration, and motivation and tranquility to a man through sex and be his muse. We only know how to, try to make him, bust and all that type of stuff, and then brag about it. Everybody on the internet is a throat goat and all that foolishness. All right, moving to the other side of the heart. Like many of our ancestors, a lot of Black women today were introduced to sex through trauma, okay? Typically, that is a Black woman's first introduction, okay, to sex, through some form of trauma, through some problem. Let me come back to you. Through some form of trauma, through some SA or something like that. Or even if it's not SA, even if it's not grape, the first experience sexually that she'll have, it can be humiliating for her. And so therefore, she carries on in that sexual energy the rest of her life, or for a great portion of it, if she does not address the situation and address that issue. But if she entered into the sexual arena through trauma, because a lot of times even a girl that was raised by her father will still enter into or be introduced to sex through a traumatic experience, because she separates sex and the knowledge of it, or the explanation for it, or any of that, from her family. So she automatically feels that this is something she should hide. This is something that is dirty. This is something separate from love and family and care, that she can't talk to her mom or dad, about sex or anything like that, because she's gonna get in trouble and all of this sort of thing. So she ventures off into her peers and her friends and the internet now and all of these other avenues and mediums to teach her about sex. And it's gonna teach the negative side of a woman's SMV. It's gonna teach the transaction. It's gonna teach humiliation, and it's going to teach criminal aspects of the SMV, which we're actually going to get into. But let me go ahead and continue on. Still at the top, the How Men See Women column is from Crimson Cure's point of view and does not represent all Black men, nor do I speak for Black men. So I'm not speaking for the men. We're going to get to that column, but this is just a general point of view and my opinion, okay? So let's move to the actual chart. On the left side of the chart, it might be right side for you, the objective, all right? These are the categories of a woman's SMV that I spoke about yesterday. At the top here, we have the positive, but first we have spiritual. And what is spiritual? Spiritual is the sacred connection the woman has between herself and her God, okay? And what is the experience of that? She consciously makes an effort to build a strong connection with God in childhood and or young adulthood. So her spiritual connection is something that she learns as a child, going to church, you know what I'm saying? And the things of this nature, she's learning this from her family, okay? Now, the next three are the positive ends of a woman's sexual market value, which we learn very little about throughout our lives in this culture. So the first one is loving. And what is the definition of loving? The definition of loving is the emotional connection or bond that a woman shares with her father as a child and woman and with her husband upon marriage. This is the foundation of procreation. And the reason why we're talking about the father is because this is where she's supposed to be learning her love. This is where a girl learns men's love and how men show love. And she learns how to receive love from men. Okay? She learns how to accept properly a man's provision, his problem solving, his protection, and his procreation. She actually learns how to do that. And this is why it's so detrimental, what I was mentioning before about a young girl separating her knowledge and understanding of sex as she gets older, as she comes into puberty, as she comes into a time where she's now interested in boys and sex becomes something that she, you know what I'm saying, thinks about, something that she wonders about. And especially in this culture, she's going to be inundated with sexual images. Okay? She's going to be inundated with sexual images. Usually women. She's going to be inundated with the sexual image of women, of Black women, because in our culture, in Black culture, women objectify themselves. Okay? We like to blame the men for that, but nobody's got a gun to no chick's head on Instagram bouncing her booty. Like she doing that on her own. Okay? Ain't no patriarchy or nothing like that making her do that. She doing that because sex in her mind is transactional. Right? This is her sexual market value for her. This actually lowers her value, but she don't perceive it that way, especially when she's young, especially when she's fine, especially when dudes want to fly out, especially when she getting attention, especially when she getting likes and shares and, you know what I'm saying, and all of this sort of thing. This seems to be a good thing for her to do, and it's not. Really, it's working against her, not for her. Okay, so we're going to continue on with the chart. So she learned what is the experience of loving, right? She learns the essence of love from the first man in her life, her father. He sets the example of love and gives her his protection, provision, problem solving, and procreation. This puts her on a path to share emotional, spiritual, and physical love with her husband. So she actually translates that knowledge and that understanding of what love is. She's watched her father love her mother and these sorts of things. So she come to expect or seek out a man like her father so that she can have that similar type of relationship, okay, with her husband. All right. Now we're going to keep going down. Underneath loving is purposeful, okay? This is the second part of the higher end of a woman's sexual market value, okay? And what's the definition of purposeful? This is mainly for family structuring, creating children, reproduction, and legacy building. Okay, so the actual purpose of sex, the biological purpose of sex. Okay. And what is the experience? The joy of bringing forth children for her husband, building a legacy together, and raising a family. All right. This is the experience of that. This is how she's experiencing this. And the third is satisfying, which is the sexual satisfaction of herself and her husband. Okay. And what is the experience of that? The experience of satisfying is her willingness to learn what satisfies her sexually as well as what her husband enjoys. It is a stress reliever and a way to reconnect emotionally with her husband. Okay. But unfortunately, Black women do not learn that this is a part of her sexual market value. This is the part of her sexual market value that contributes positively to her marriage market value. We see sexual market value is right before marriage market value, and there's a reason that it sits right before. It's that last barrier of decision of how a man is going to decide and determine whether or not you have proper marriage market value or not. It's that last hurdle. And you need that hurdle to be real low enough for him to just step over and not even miss it. If he got to jump over it like Superman can jump or leap over a building in a single bound, you in trouble, baby. You in trouble, baby. Okay? And why is she in trouble? Let's go back to the chart, because this is what she learns. If we come down underneath satisfying, this begins. Transactional is the first of the negative side of a woman's SMV, okay? The negative side. This is what we grow up with. Let me come back to you for a second before we start reading this chart. That negative side is what we grow up with, ladies. We grow up in this culture today. Wasn't like this, 60, 70, 80 years ago. We wasn't steeped in thought culture and whole culture and all of that type of stuff. We wasn't steeped in that stuff. But now we are. And how did we get here? Okay. We talked about women's lib, but also Black culture. Black culture promote this type of stuff. It does not promote loving or purposeful or satisfaction. It doesn't promote that type of stuff at all. We too busy utilizing sex in the transaction. We think of sex transactionally inside of a relationship and outside of a relationship. We utilize it to get stuff we want. We try to utilize it to punish men when they don't give us what we want. When, we try to use it as a reward punishment system. We try to use it to get money. We try to use it to get ahead. We use our sexual, our sex and the promise of our sex to move ahead and move along in life, always needing some type of payment behind it. This is what we learn. This is why your sexual market value is so low. Because despite the fact that we live in thought culture, we're not supposed to be doing this. This is wrapped up into the lost value system, but we're going to continue. Transactional, the dirty, primal, and carnal emotions connected to sex. A woman who only deals with men in a way that is devoid of love or spiritual connection. We were taught you can have sex like a man, or how we think men have sex. And that's really not even all that true. But because we got taught that sex don't mean nothing and it's not special and, and all of that type of stuff, this is how we get into these transactional. We pretty much, your average Black woman is pretty much a prostitute. That's how far it's come. What's the experience of that? This is promoted today by convincing Black women to widely and collectively participate in activities such as whole phases, twerking in public, hot girl summer, OnlyFans, being strong, independent, and don't need a man, thought culture, casual sex, one-night stands, hookups, having a high body count, large number of partners, and wanting to be equal to or better than men regarding his perceived promiscuity. The current self-love, abstinent, and celibacy scams are a disingenuous way to deal with past transactional trauma. I know I said a mouthful, but there you go. Let's move to the humiliating. What is the definition? Sex that includes vulgar expression, degrading and or treating someone shamefully, belittling intentionally, or projecting unhealthy critiques. What's the experience? This is sex she can never feel good or positive about. It works to lower her self-esteem and feelings of self-worth and value. And lastly, criminal. This is sex connected to grapes, SA, trauma, torture, or forms of verbal and or physical violence. The experience is sometimes this is a woman's introduction to sex, often occurs early in life, especially if the safety of her environment is compromised. It teaches her to disconnect love from sex acts and sexual feelings. And at the bottom, we've got transmutation. Sex transmutation makes sexual energy transmutable, by channeling the positive force for your benefit. And the experience in Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich, he claims that sex transmutation is one of the greatest forces a woman can learn. All right. We'll talk more about sexual transmutation in future videos or whatever, however it becomes appropriate. Now, we're moving over to the column of how when men see women. And this is the part that women don't like to understand, okay? Because what that says, I'm gonna read what it says to you. It says, most Black men view a woman's SMV based on many factors, including these, which help him determine the type of relationship he will have with her, including marriage and children, sort of like this scale. So when a man looks at a woman to determine what type of relationship he gonna have with her, she needs to be higher up on this scale for better marriage market value. If she's primarily in this negative space, this transactional, humiliating, criminal space, she'll jump off. And she gonna always be a forever girlfriend. She gonna always be a forever side chick and all that type of stuff. This is why a lot of y'all not getting married. Y'all having these relationships long term with these men that won't marry you because he see too much of this, not enough of too much of this, meaning the negative side, not enough of the positive side. So over here, it says from hoe to housewife in the last column. And it starts down here. Can a woman go from here, the negative space, to here, the positive space? Can she go from transactional to loving? Typically, this is not possible and or very difficult to accomplish. And key factors are body count, experiences, and time. So what that basically means is that this is the real reason why you can't turn a hoe into a housewife, because if she spent too much time in that transactional, humiliating, or criminal phase, very difficult for her to learn how to unlearn that and learn how to connect her sexual energies, sexual desires, okay, and sex acts and emotions and thoughts about sex to something positive like love and a spiritual connection. And the reason why is because that connection of love and spirituality and emotion to sex is essential for wifehood. She can't be a wife without the ability to bring a man peace and tranquility and not having a transactional mindset when it comes to sex. She can't have that. So a wife, this is why a wife and a lioness would never think to try to punish her husband with no sex because he didn't do something that she wanted him to do or something like that. So now he got to sleep on the couch and he can't have no sex. No, this is why lionesses don't operate like that, because sex is used at times to do what? Reconnect. So if there is a distance, if there is a little bit of stress or tension or something like that, actually sex, it doesn't get cut off. It gets introduced in order to rectify or to bring the relationship and the emotions back to equilibrium. So when we go back to the chart, we're almost done. It's exceedingly difficult. If she spent a lot of time in the transaction, that means that she hasn't been practicing the attachment of love and sex, right? Which is, like I said, essential to wifehood. She's been practicing the transaction. The longer you do something, the more of an expert you become at it. It's really what this boils down to. And she's becoming an expert at hoeing and not being a wife. This is why getting older and stop hoeing don't make you a wife. Unless you can learn how to reconnect sex to love, purpose, and satisfaction, you're going to have a real hard time for that. And if you've been hoeing for the last 30 years, you're in trouble. And here, these last couple of boxes, this loving here, it says white supremacy portrayal as well as their perception of white women. She always connects her sex in this positive way. And down here in a transactional, it says white supremacist portrayal as well as their perception of black women. Black women are always transactional, always whores. Okay? Always whores. So I wanted to bring that to you because I thought it was extremely important to make sure that we understand our sexual market value, how we as women should look at it, and also, generally speaking, how men look at it. Once again, I don't speak for the men, but that's my personal opinion about it. Okay. So I really wanted to bring everybody's attention to it. Hope that you learned something from it. We got a new chart, so I'm so excited. All right. And the other thing that I'm excited about is to tell you and remind you about the petition we have against Black Lives Matter. We are still holding them accountable for the more than $100 million theft that they have done upon the Black community. So if you want to be a part of holding them accountable, please go into the description box, click the link, sign the petition, share it, and contribute to it as well. Also, jump down in the comment section and let me know what you think. Like, share, subscribe to the channel if you have not. Once again, I'm your host, The Crimson Cure, and this was my perspective. Bye-bye, Crimsonites.
Hey guys, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. And if you've got more to say on the topic, leave a comment down below. Also, don't forget to support our sponsor, who so graciously supports this channel by clicking the description box and the link for A-Game at agameherbal.com. You can go ahead and get a 10% discount off of your next purchase using the code Kendra10. This has been yet another Crimson Cure production, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.